Hey, my name is Hayley, aka the Ice Cream Lady. Sorry if I look a little bit rough. Had a big day at work and I don't have any makeup on and I'm about to go to bed. But I really felt like I had to talk about this because I think it's really important to talk about for some reason. I just really feel like I just gotta get this off my chest and talk about it. I don't even know how to start it, but I know I've made a video on this before and I still really believe in it, and I don't know how else to talk about this, and I don't want to bring anyone down or anything like that, but losing my father has taught me a lot when it comes to forgiveness, and like really a lot. And because I'm gonna be really frank with everyone because I don't see why not, but I was basically terrified of my biological father most of my life. And then after he passed away, I got to know him for the man that he became. Again, excuse the way I look, but I couldn't help but one, I was no longer scared of him. Two, I forgave the fuck out of him. He wrote these journal notes. So I received a package from my beautiful auntie recently, and he wrote these journals, and one of the last things he wrote in 2006 was, "I'm going to come and see you next year." That never happened. Just over the last few days, I was like, why didn't he see me? He didn't think I was good enough to see, but it was very obvious how much my father loved me. He's written numerous songs about me, and they're on Spotify, and I'm very grateful that I have that. But it really hurt me, and I was like, he didn't even come and see me because my mum had moved on years after they had separated. Anyway, that's her story, not mine. But I had to forgive that. I did. And I realized, I was like, I don't have any ill will against anyone that has ever done me wrong or that has ever treated me a certain way. I just don't. Because holding on to that, I've seen what holding on to grief, what holding on to grudges, what holding on to people, like holding on to things that aren't a big deal does to people. I've seen how it can really control their lives, change their lives, create a narrative that isn't true. There's a lot of people out there that have hurt me, yeah, but I pretty much forgive every single person. Like I do. If I can forgive my father that I was scared of for all these years, I can literally forgive anyone. And that's basically why I wanted to do this video. And it's not out of weakness either. Forgiving someone when they've done you wrong, it's not about that. Because something that I realized is every single person that has done me wrong, I say wrong because there's two sides to every story. There just is, whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not. There are things going on in my father's life that I really just probably didn't know about. That might be the reason why he couldn't come and visit me when I was younger. There's two sides to every story. And, you know, I've had a lot of people hurt me in the past, but the one thing, and I don't know if it's a superpower, I know I'm not the only one that has experienced this. Again, sorry about the way I look, I know my skin, anyway, I need to stop. But like it helps me choose me. You know, I remember like whenever like I've gotten my heart broken, I'm like, wow, that hurt. I let myself be upset about it, and then I'm like, I'm just gonna do me. I'm gonna do what I do best, and I'm gonna be myself. because that is one thing that I know I'm good at doing. I'm good at being myself. I'm good at being kind. I'm good at being understanding. You know, a conversation goes a really long way. I truly believe that. There's people that I've removed from my life because for all sorts of different reasons. I didn't remove them. I kind of blocked them out of my life because I just want to try and move forward and get over them. But I know if I ever had a conversation with that person, I would have nothing but kindness for that individual, because I still have a lot of respect and love for them. And that's the thing, isn't it? Like, even though these people can hurt you, you can still have a lot of love and respect for them. Now I know there's things that have happened to me that like way in the past, the damage is done, and I'll most likely never forgive them for that. It's very circumstantial. This is very different because it's my father, and you know, every situation is different, but I'm a very forgiving person, and all I need is a conversation. And I kind of got that when it came to looking at my father's stuff, looking at his journals, looking at everything he kept from me over the years. Like, he kept all my drawings I had as a little kid. He did all sorts of things. I just don't want this to fall over. And you know, it would have really hurt him, the fact that I barely reached out to him just because I was quite scared of him for personal reasons. But I don't know, I just felt like talking to you guys because, and I know I've made this video in the past, forgiveness is my favorite flavor, because there's a lot of growth to be had in forgiveness. There's a lot of lessons that are learned. I truly never believe anything is a mistake, because everything does happen for a reason, and a lot of things end up making people stronger anyway. And a lot of things that I've personally been through, pretty much everything that I've been through has made me stronger. I had to forgive a certain person for basically leaving the planet. I didn't forgive him for so long. I was like, how could you do that? You're so young. You had so much potential. And it was so hard for me to forgive him leaving. He was a really close friend of mine. That's why mental health is really important to me, because I feel like everyone deserves to have a voice and everyone deserves to feel heard. And I guess the reason why I'm here today is, when you let go of the hurt and start playing the flashes of what happened in your brain, like, I have this beautiful thing that I can do, and I've done it most of my life, is I will forget about a lot of things. Like, you can forgive but you don't forget. And there was this, if I constantly held on to every little thing that everyone did wrong to me, where would I be? If I constantly held on to it, if I constantly held a grudge, if I constantly let it control my narrative, where would I be? I wouldn't be here. I probably wouldn't. Even, I remember, and it reminded me of this time, like, I was literally thinking, oh my god, that's actually so funny. It's a classic example. When I was in school, primary school, this guy, I had a lot of acne. I was that girl. I was not the popular girl. I had a lot of acne. I had this fringe. It was oily. I used to get teased for having this fringe, and I had a lot of acne. I was a bit of a bigger girl. I was chubby, and I used to get teased a lot for it. And one time in class, one of the popular boys drew an absolutely awful picture of me. It was an awful picture. It looked like a troll. It looked like an actual troll, and I did not look like a troll. And you know, this is why it's funny, because yeah, like, my mum was absolutely appalled, and like, you know, she went to the teacher and the teacher sorted him out. But then in high school, I think it was like year 11, yeah, you got to year 11, that happened in year 6. And in high school, we ended up being friends, because we ended up catching the same bus as well home, and we ended up having an okay friendship. even when Valentine's Day came around, he bought me a rose. And you guys can be like, he probably just had a crush on you. No, he bullied the hell out of me. He wasn't the only one that bullied me either. This is what I find so funny, because even to this day, I'll always say like hello to him and he'll always say hello to me. And we ended up being friends because I forgave him for what he did, and because he said sorry. He did. He's like, yeah, I'm sorry for doing that. I was such an asshole when I did that. I'm like, that's so fine. That's fine. It wasn't very nice, but it is what it is. And we joke about it every now and then. I like a joke. Yeah, remember when you drew that awful drawing of me? He's like, yeah, I'm so sorry. And it would laugh about it. That's why I think I said in my last video, like, what can you do about a weird situation but laugh about it? Honestly, because laughter is the best medicine. It is. And I do believe that. Like, I've always been a laughing girl. I've got, you know, like joyful things in my name. And yeah, it's just who I am. But I was really hurt by the fact but that whole juxtaposition, that shows, well, imagine if I never forgave him for drawing that stupid drawing and half bullying me in school. At the time, yeah, it really hurt. But time moved and time healed me. And time moved and time healed me when I was so upset that someone chose to leave this planet. And I forgave them. I'm still really, you don't fully get over things, but then you think, okay, well, I don't want anyone else to feel that way. That's why I show up here. And, you know, I've been in that position too where I've not felt the best, so I can understand. I am a survivor from it numerous times, and I'm not proud to say it, but I am proud to say that I've survived it. And me losing my father and seeing all these different things, I had to learn how to forgive him because I wanted to get to know him. I really wanted to get to know him for who he was, not based on a narrative that was basically, it wasn't created, there was concrete evidence, yes, but I wanted to get to know him for who he was. And my lovely auntie has told me a few things about him already. I do want to talk about this. Like, I don't know why. He was in a band, and I've always wanted to be in a band. And just seeing parts about his life was really beautiful for me. And I wouldn't have been able to see these things. I wouldn't have been able to see parts of his life. I wouldn't have been able to see how much he actually loved me if I didn't forgive him. That's why I'm talking to you guys now, because there are some people that I understand you just cannot forgive. You cannot, like, you can forgive them, but you don't want to be anywhere near them. Completely understand it. You know, there's people, like I said, I've chosen to remove because I just want to get over them if I can. If I ever meet them in person, I'm more than happy to have a conversation with them and have a yarn and see where that goes. But forgiveness goes a long way. It would always be my favourite flavour. I always try my best to understand situations to the best that I can. There's probably a lot of things out there that well, not a lot of things, let's be quite honest, but there's probably a couple of things out there that there's people that may never forgive me for what I did. You know, I don't know. I've got a big mouth. Sometimes I say shit. No one's perfect. Neither am I. And I'd never expect anyone to be perfect as well. That's so boring. It's so boring to be perfect. You don't learn anything. You don't. But I think the reason, I don't know why I feel like I need to talk about this. I don't know why I feel I need to get this off my chest. But yeah, a conversation goes a long way. And I'll always hold space for people that I'll always love and respect. Because for you to feel that kind of pain, you would have had to love them at one point as well, right? And I think deep down I always had a lot of love for my father because I was a lot like him in many different ways. I'd love one day to be able to make music like him, I used to always daydream that we'd make music together, but that's not a thing anymore. And yeah, I think that's basically it. If you're struggling to let go of a situation, you might not need to forgive them, but definitely forgive yourself. That's a big thing for me as well. I felt so guilty for being so scared for so long, and I was like, well, you can't change anything. You can't change any of what happened, can you? I'm like, no, I can't. And so I had to forgive myself as well. There's times that I've probably not acted in the best way, and I've forgiven myself for a lot of things that I've done, because I've never wished ill will on people ever that have done me wrong, because what does that achieve? What does it achieve wishing ill will? Because at the end of the day, if that individual had a lot of kindness in their life already, they probably wouldn't have been so unkind to you. So wishing ill will just doesn't get you anywhere. And yeah, I just think me being able to forgive my father, that I was basically terrified of most of my life, has gone a really long way for me. And I do forgive pretty much everyone that's done me wrong. Pretty much every single person. I know it sounds wild, and like there's like exes that I'd never ever go back to and I'd never want to talk to again. That's a whole different situation. You know what I mean? It's situational. So, but yeah, and I think the story of like the high school story as well, I just laughed. I'm like, yeah, if I never forgived him when I was younger, we never would have ended up being friends on the bus. We never would have ended up being friends as we got older. And like, as I said, if I ever saw him down the street, I'd say hey, and he'd say hey to me too. But imagine if I never forgave him. I'd have this pent up resentment, and that slowly drains you, and it like literally wears and tears over time. So yeah, I think it's a hard step to go through. I wish I didn't have to lose my father to feel this way, but I'm also grateful for everything that does come my way and lessons that I do end up learning. And yeah, that's basically where I stand with a lot of things. And as I said, a lot of people who have done me wrong, I've become really strong after it. Certain situations made me realize I would need to choose myself a lot more. I need to be myself a lot more. Because the way I was presenting in the world, I had all these dreams, and I wasn't even doing anything to even try that. I wasn't even doing anything to kind of be myself. That's why I was like, oh my god, and I really need to lean into my ice cream lady thing. And that's what I did. And I was like, yeah, this is who I am. This is part of who I am. It's not all of who I am, because you can't fully understand who anyone is because you're not with me 24 hours a day. But I think that's all I really wanted to say. Forgiveness goes a long way, and I wouldn't be the woman I am today if I wasn't able to have that gene or that kind of way of being. And I'm really grateful that I am like this, because yeah, I would have been able to meet my father for who he was, who he became in the end. And parts of him were really good and parts of him weren't so good. But there's a lot of people out there that deserve forgiveness, and starting with yourself, forgiving yourself, is probably the first step to forgiving everyone else. Yeah, I don't mean to sound cheesy or anything. As I've said in numerous videos, I have a lot of love to give, and sometimes I really struggle with giving it to myself. And yeah, sometimes that's where you have to start. You've got to just start with yourself and forgive yourself for how you acted in certain situations and go from there, because that goes a long way too. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Thank you for watching and listening, and yeah.